There's an orangutan in the San Diego Zoo who for years tortured the zookeepers by being unmanageable. Would not stay in the cage, got out, ran around the zoo, high-fiving kids, kissing moms, would not stay in the cage. His name, proper name, Ken Allen.
Kenneth
Allen. Ken Allen was an orangutan at the San Diego Zoo, and this week we're talking about all the efforts the zoo had to do to try to keep this very smart primate enclosed.
Yeah, he was actually a human in a costume.
Well,
the whole time.
The whole time from birth. All right. This is Things I Learned Last Night. It's a comedy podcast where we learn something new every single week. And this week is no different. Thanks for checking out the show. We'll see you at the end of it.
Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of Ken Allen?
Ken Allen.
Yeah, Ken Allen.
No.
Take a guess. I'll tell you. He was born in 1971. See if that helps you at all. Ken Allen. Yeah.
Does he have a brother?
I don't know if we know about him. I mean, he could.
Okay, so he's not
Maybe
Tim
a
Allen's
sister.
brother.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, honestly, looking at him, like I could see him being like a long lost brother.
Okay.
I didn't think about that until you said it, but now that I'm looking at him.
So Ken Allen.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to see a picture of him?
I don't think it'll help, but sure.
Yeah, let me know if you can tell who this guy is. It's an orangutan.
Is this orangutan's name?
Yeah, this orangutan is named Ken Allen.
What? Okay.
So I love this so much. I'm so excited for this story. Okay. So Ken Allen is an orangutan. He lives in the San Diego Zoo.
Currently.
Well, no, not currently.
I was going to say he's born in
1971. He was born February 13th, 1971.
How do orangutans live?
In the San Diego Zoo. I don't know. What's an orangutan lifespan? Orangutan lifespan.
So just so you know, when I say the word orangutan, I say the first half pretty confident, and then I just let it drift off at the end because I don't know if it's orangutan.
Yeah, honestly, this is the first
orangutan.
time I have studied for this episode, and when I searched orangutan lifespan, I realized there's no G at the end. I've always thought there's orangutan
because of the Tang commercials.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting
orangutan.
how that just kind of breaks your brain a little bit.
Doesn't.
It's kind of like how
I feel completely like I knew that.
I saw someone recently talking about the
Orangutan.
Santa Claus movie.
Yeah, how it doesn't have an E?
Yeah.
Because it's a pun?
Yeah, but after that movie,
But
they
millennials,
just thought
we all spell it with
Santa
an E.
Claus has an E at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and autocorrect doesn't autocorrect you because Claus is a word.
Claus is a word.
Yeah, that's tricky. Orangutans live on average 35 to 40 years in the wild, but in captivity, they can live up to 50 years.
Wow.
Or 60 or more is what it says. It says, but they can in captivity live up to 50 years or live up to 60 years or more. Why'd you say that? Just say can live over 60 years. Why did they say that?
Because there's currently one orangutan that is like 62.
Yeah, it actually does say the next sentence. It says the record for longest lived orangutan. Now I'm like so self-conscious about my pronunciation of that, which is weird because I'm never self-conscious about pronouncing stuff wrong. In captivity, is held by an orangutan named Gypsy, who died at the age of 62 in Tokyo.
Called it.
Yeah, so you were dead on. Anyways, Ken, he was born in the San Diego Zoo in February 13th, 1971.
Okay.
He was named for the two zookeepers, Ken and Alan. They were like, what if we name him after us? Which is kind of adorable. Like those are some good work friends.
Yeah.
But let's be fair. There's not a lot of jobs where you get to name animals. They're like if you're a software developer and you're like, let's name this new software Ken Allen, which is, I mean, I guess it's a cool, Ken Allen does kind of flow. Anyways.
It flows. Yeah, it wouldn't be like Alan Ken.
Yeah. So Ken was born, and pretty quickly they realized that Ken's mother in the zoo was not fit to be a mother. She wasn't a very good mother because she
was constantly smoking. She was getting tattoos instead of paying rent to the zoo.
Yeah, and she always brought these weird boyfriends home.
Yeah.
They're really bad men.
She's bringing boyfriends from the gorilla pit home.
Yeah, you can't have gorillas around orangutans.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they always pronounce orangutan with a G. And
Yeah.
you're like, what are you?
Orangutan.
Orangutan.
And you're like, what?
So they realized Ken's mother, she had a problem where no one really knows why, but she had a problem where she just kept sitting on Ken when he was an infant.
Oh.
And they were like, do you not see your child? And
She's like, I've been hanging out with that was her chicken boyfriend, dude. She had a chicken boyfriend.
He's like, you're supposed to
she
sit
started
on him.
dating geese and stuff, and they were like,
Don't you-
you're supposed to sit on them,
such
right?
a dumb bitch.
And
Why don't
she
you
was
sit
like,
on
I
your
don't know.
son?
Shh. I'm doing something. And excuse me, I'm
doing
podcasting. So that was the whole bit. You can keep
Okay,
going.
got it. And so
I just like, shh. I'm podcasting.
So normally what they would do is a new orangutan is born. They take that orang and they say, you live with your mom for a little bit, and then we're going to figure out what pen we put you in as you mature.
Yeah.
With Ken, they said, we got to separate you. She's going to kill you. She keeps sitting on top of you. She's going to crush you. So they take him to an indoor enclosure that's like a private enclosure.
Okay.
And they raise him. Ken and Alan raise him on their own.
Sure.
And here's the thing about this enclosure. They put in a bunch of toys. They put a bunch of ropes and stuff he can swing on. But because he's in there by himself overnight, they're like, we can't leave him in there overnight alone. And so what they did is they had a cage, like a kennel, that they would take him in at night. They'd walk him into the cage at night, lock him in there, leave, and then in the morning they'd get there and let him back out. So that way he couldn't hurt himself overnight.
Orangutan.
And so
He's got opposable thumbs.
yeah. So so Ken learned
Gets out of the cage.
Ken learned he can unscrew the bolts on the cage. And so he started taking apart his cage and going out and playing all night. So the workers, the zookeepers,
Going out, hanging out with the chicks.
well, he can't. It's an indoor enclosure. He can't get out.
Yeah.
But he's still jumping around and playing all night, playing with his toys, swinging from the ropes that they hung from. And they get there in the morning, and there's the disassembled cage, and then him just out in the open. And they would then put the cage back together and take him back to the cage. And so this happened a couple times.
Then he realized he had to put it back together.
And Ken realized, oh, these zookeepers, they don't want me out of this cage. They want me to be in this cage when they get back. So the zookeepers realized one morning, they show up and this cage is they show up, he's in the cage, but all the toys are not where they left them. They usually clean up, put them in the bins, but they're all out in the open. And they're like, how is this happening? And so they stay back one night and they wait. So they leave, they make him think that he's gone, and they catch him. What he did is he took the screws out, disassembled the whole thing, and then he would go play for a while. And when the sun started to come up, he went back and he reassembled the cage with him inside it. And so that way they would find him back in the cage. And they were like, we think he's been doing this for weeks, reassembling the cage when the sun came up and then waiting in there for us to show up. So that way he wouldn't get in trouble. I don't know what they did when he showed up.
Well, they would tase him if he was out of the cage. So he's like, I gotta quit getting tased.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to be tased.
Yeah.
So
Pretty effective.
So they rebuilt the cage. They built a cage that couldn't be disassembled. I don't know how they did it. They
Welded it or what?
Welded it. Yeah, something like that. I don't know what they did. But once they did that, he stopped escaping in the middle of the night. And that's the end of the story. Just kidding. And so
But also he grew violent.
So
and vengeful.
So he grows up.
He started writing letters to the family members, not to Ken and Al,
Not to get it out into their family.
but to Ken's wife Marie.
Yeah, he was sending them coconuts.
Postcards. And he would write, "Dear Marie, when I leave my cage at night, I watch you." Send.
What?
Well, this looks like it was written by an orangutan. So that narrows it down.
I'm pretty sure it's the orangutan.
Dude, your handwriting looks like an orangutan wrote that.
So
they're huge, by the way. Have you
they
seen
are big.
an orangutan
Yeah, they're
in
not
person?
small. They're not small.
They're massive.
They're
way bigger
like,
than you think.
They're like gorillas.
Yeah, but I think they're bigger than gorillas.
Are they?
I don't know. They're pretty big.
Are orangutans bigger than gorillas? No.
Oh.
They're not bigger than gorillas. Gorilla is typically weighs between 300 and 500 pounds. Adult male gorillas. While adult orangutans typically weigh between 100 and 200. Stand up to 4.5 feet tall.
Well, you could do a side-by-side image. Is there a side-by-side?
Let's see if I can find it.
Orangutan versus gorilla. Don't look that up. There might be some weird YouTube channel.
Actually, this is perfect. This is a perfect comparison.
That means it's going to be stupid.
What are you talking about? This is exactly what you're looking for.
Well, I mean, this is AI.
But it's probably pretty close to what they look like.
Maybe it's just their heads are way bigger.
They got big heads. I mean, well, here's one. I don't know if that measurement is right.
Okay.
Because hold on here, I'm going to show you some. Unless
the
this
gorilla
woman,
over here looks like King Kong. That doesn't look like a gorilla.
I know, yeah, that's why I picked that one. Unless this woman is a very small person, then orangutans are bigger than that. Than what I just said.
That's what I'm saying.
Because that's pretty big.
That's what I'm saying. Look how huge that thing is. And you know that's Cain. That's Cain from the Bible. Is what the Mormons believe.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I guess for the sake of argument, its hair is long and flowy. So maybe that's
probably
not
what
all
the volume
mass.
that I'm thinking is. Yeah, for sure. That's crazy, though. Also, why is she that close to it?
I think they found it in the wild, in the public.
And it's just chill. Look how it's chilling.
Yeah.
Look how this. I mean,
orangutans are pretty peaceful creatures.
This orangutan is about to ask you if you watched the finale of The Good Place. It's gonna be like,
did you see that?
Did you see that?
What do you think of season 4? Did you happen to see that?
I thought it started off super strong.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, here's one I can see where this one looks like it got a recent cut. Okay. I think this is a female because its head is a different shape.
Okay.
So I think this might be a female. So maybe that's why its size looks so different. But without all that flowy hair, it doesn't look as big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, if you've been watching for a minute and you like this show, a great way to help out is by becoming a Patreon supporter. Our patrons get a ton of perks for their support. They get ad-free episodes a week early. They get a Discord with our hosts and producers. We do monthly hangouts. There's a way to get birthday messages on your birthday. There's a lot of great perks, but more than anything, you just help make sure that this show continues to happen forever. We never want to stop. We're going to keep doing this forever. If we have enough patron supporters, we can put our brains in those little vats and have AI pretend it's us. And so we can keep doing it long after we die. But that only happens if you support us on Patreon. So we appreciate your support. Thanks for your help. If you don't want to support, that's totally fine. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you watching this show. Back to Ken. Ken lives the rest of his childhood in this cage that he can't escape. Well, I mean, he lives the evenings in the cage and then wakes up in the morning and then they let him out. He plays and then they put him back, right? Grows up to the age where it's like, okay, now it's time to assimilate him back into our culture in the zoo. And so they take him to an orangutan enclosure and they put him in an enclosure with where he could have a community. And so, because they were a little worried, they were like, he's pretty smart. He's smarter than other orangutans to be able to both unscrew that, but then also put it back together. That's a pretty intelligent primate. And so he says, so they say, okay, we got to put him somewhere where we think he might be safer. So they put him in one where he can have a community. They said, okay, I think if he's got community, then maybe he will be less.
Right. So he joined a small group. And so every week they show up and they sit down and they just ask normal small group questions, what's your browser history? That's a good starting conversation for someone that you've never met before. They go,
little starter.
What have you been searching lately?
You're like looking up.
Like, hey, why don't you start with what's my wife's name? Huh? How about we start with?
Yeah. How about we start with
where did I go to high school?
What do you do?
What do I do for them? Why are you jumping straight to this weird
this
stuff
crazy
right now?
question?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your browser?
What do you think about Rob Bell?
Whoa!
What do you think about Rob?
I mean, it depends what you think.
I mean, yeah, depending on your answer to this, Mark Driscoll, freaking.
So
They got involved, started volunteering. They had him there every weekend for church, for kids' church.
They put him in an enclosure that would have.
Which, for church, I mean, I don't know if you've been to church lately, but the first time guests get freaking TVs, dude. Yeah. They get coffee mugs, TVs. They get a bundle of cash, just a bag of cash, and then you do a volunteer night, and each volunteer gets a 10% off coupon to the coffee shop in the church.
Yeah.
Pretty wild stuff.
So they put
Tim just waits for me to get done with my bits, and then he's like, yeah.
Okay, now I can teach you again.
So the orangutan,
here's the thing.
Shush, I'm doing a thing.
Here's the thing. I'll listen to this back later. I'll be driving,
and you'll go,
I'll laugh really hard.
You'll be like, that's so
and I'll
funny.
Text you. I'll text you.
It's so funny, dude. Oh my gosh. We're like, wait, I didn't remember you doing that bit.
Yeah. It's okay. If I was listening, I wouldn't
Starbucks Grande's sister.
Speaking of can't remember, did you see that there is a lab that has run, I think it's 43 successful tests curing Alzheimer's? Did you see this?
What?
So they've done. So
I just don't like how you pivoted to that, to be honest. Speaking of can't remember, that was so.
What? Here's
43 successful.
This is my biggest fear. I think, curing it.
Curing it.
Yes.
Like reversing it.
Yes. So what the test is long story short, and I'm going off memory here, so we'll see if I get this right. But long story short, what Alzheimer's is a protein deficiency in your brain. And they said that the reason why you have that deficiency is the part of your brain that's releasing those proteins gets blocked up. And so what they do is they go flush that system essentially, so that way the protein can pass through into your brain, and then you can still remember. And so they've done these tests. I think it was 43 tests with Alzheimer patients, and they said within 2 weeks, or they said I think it was within a few hours, their memory started to return, and within 2 weeks, their disposition returned to what their disposition was like before the diagnosis. And it's still very early. It's still only like 40 tests, so it's not enough to be conclusive yet.
Right.
But so far, very early stage, really, really positive signs that they can reverse Alzheimer's, which is bonkers. And honestly, that's been my biggest fear my whole life. I feel like I've been early onset Alzheimer's since I'm 11.
Really?
And so I'm glad they're figuring that out because I'm terrified.
That's your biggest fear? You've never told me that
My
before.
biggest fear is going to prison for something that I didn't commit.
Yeah, that's right.
My second biggest fear
You've never
is
told me you're
getting
afraid of Alzheimer's before.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
You've never said that.
I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident I'm already on the road to it.
Really? You think so?
This is the first time hearing of this. I don't know if dementia and Alzheimer's
You've never told me this
I'm pretty
before.
sure they are. But
why do you think that?
Because I can't remember anything.
Yeah, because sometimes your wife will be like, you don't remember me saying this?
Yeah.
That's what happens. That happens to you?
And our podcast.
Yeah.
Constantly, you'll bring up bits and callbacks, and I'll be like, I can't remember that.
Yeah.
And maybe you're gaslighting me. It would be something you would do, but it's not just this. It's
that was such a just throwing it out there thing.
I mean, we gaslight each other for fun.
We don't gaslight each other. Master manipulators cannot be manipulated.
What did I gaslight you for yesterday? I gaslit you for something. Or that was this morning, right?
Yeah.
About it being cold in here?
Yeah. You tried anyway.
Yeah, and you got really mad. I got you.
Yeah. You've never brought up how
I'm scared of it.
You're so afraid.
I'm very scared of it. So you're doing it right now.
You bring it up a lot, dude. You say it a lot. Not even on the podcast. In our normal conversations, you say it all the time. It's probably the number one thing. Every day we're on the phone. You don't even say goodbye anymore. You just go, man, I hope I don't forget you. And then you hang up. I'm like, what are you talking about? You hope you don't forget me. You're like, man, I hope I always remember who you are. Bye. And then you hang up.
Weird way to say bye.
You've done that since 2019, dude. And I was like, wow, that's a weird way to end phone calls. At first, I was like, oh, it's like a bit. You're doing that little mate thing. You're like, all right, mate.
Yeah.
But then you started being like, I hope I always remember who you are. And then you hang up. Every day. You did it this morning. We talked on the phone this morning about how cold it is in here. I was like, man, it's so cold.
Never forget.
Hey, buddy, not to be like super sentimental or whatever, but I hope I never forget you.
And you were like, honestly, I'm pretty annoyed
I'm
with
like,
you.
I don't know, dude. Eat some more protein, bro. Freaking.
You haven't had pepperoni in months.
Yeah, dude. Freaking, you've got a sack of pepperoni.
I'm just trying to make
Someone's
sure
like, what
I
are you
don't
doing?
forget.
I'm just making sure I don't forget. All right. Okay.
Yeah, my uncle just eats a ton of protein, and he says this guy doesn't want to
I
forget
just got this bag of pepperoni. So
Every
don't forget.
holiday, every birthday.
Sir, you can't bring that in
Protein.
here. This is my birthday gift.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyways, I guess I
Ken-
have told you that.
Ken starts assimilating into
Yeah, Ken's assimilating into this other enclosure.
because they're trying to get. They put him in a small group. He's volunteering at church. That's how he got here.
Yeah. That's how we got to.
He joined the worship
That's how we
team.
got to eating pepperoni so
Yeah.
you don't forget.
Yeah.
It's just a logical path. No, so they put Ken in an enclosure with a community. So there's 3 female orangutan
Okay.
and 1 male orangutan, which I think anybody...
Plus him?
Yeah, and him.
Okay.
And so I think anybody could see this and say, that probably was an oversight.
Okay.
Because I don't know what...
Immediately they start competing for who's going to be.
Yes.
Yes.
None of the reports I've
And
seen
he's
about
like,
this story...
He's like, dude, I can't beat you up, but I can lock your cage.
I've read a lot about this, and none of the reports tell me the names of the female orangutans.
Okay.
But they all tell us the male's name is Otis, which
Which, if you've got Ken Allen, which sounds like the most homeschooled orangutan that exists, and then you put him in a community with Otis.
Otis, yeah. It's the kind of yeah. So
Otis has a face scar. He's
Yeah.
got, a shin tattoo.
Yep, and a motorcycle.
Yeah.
A Harley. Yep. So Otis and Ken are mortal enemies. They hate
Gosh,
each
that's
other.
my biggest fear, dude, is to get locked in an orangutan cage with Otis.
with an orangutan named Otis.
Ugh. What's your biggest fear?
I think the Alzheimer's. So Ken and Otis become enemies. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
So in the zoo, like when you go to the big enclosures,
Right.
and they've got you walk up to the railing and then it's like a big pit,
Right.
and they're all down there. Well, Ken one day realized, this wall is like a brick wall.
I can climb this.
Yeah. And so he does. He climbs up that brick wall and he jumps over the railing,
Oh, no.
and then he just strolls through the zoo. And he goes and he's looking at the animals.
He's like, oh, my God. What are we doing? You're meant to run free. Free Willy. And he lets the whales out.
That's the way it's happening. He doesn't get that
He,
they need water.
he drains the water from the whale enclosure. He's like, be free.
Yeah, he's like,
And
why
then
aren't you swimming?
They're like,
They're flopping there. They can breathe though.
yeah, they don't flop, do they?
Whales will flop. I would assume anything. You put anything that swims on land, it flops.
Yeah. So he's walking around. He hits the snack bar for sure.
Yeah.
He's like blending in with a family. She's like, that's my husband. He's so funny.
Well, that's the thing. He's super peaceful. He
Is
genuinely.
it during the
it's open. There's
open.
a bunch
the
of guests
zoo's
in
open.
here. There's a bunch of guests.
There's a field
in
trip there.
Yes.
That's the only time we ever went to the zoo was on field trips.
Really?
Yeah, we weren't like a zoo family.
Yeah, that's fair.
We were a
to be
monster
fair,
truck family.
you didn't have a great zoo.
Dickerson Park Zoo is fine. It's pretty good.
I guess I haven't been.
It's okay.
I just assumed it sucked.
It's not
I guess.
bad.
I guess I just assumed. That's on me.
Yeah,
that's on me. I just assumed.
We had everything. Like, you could feed the giraffes out of your hand. They can lick all the way around and up your arm.
Okay.
One of them, they let you tongue kiss. You tongue kiss the giraffe.
I hate you right now so much.
Yeah.
So
we weren't allowed to because we were Christian. But
they asked you before.
Well,
they
that wasn't
trying to be
the
respectful.
zoo did not allow us. That's why
The
we didn't go to the zoo. My mom
giraffe
said,
was like,
we're not going to the zoo because I don't want to cause you to stumble by making out with a giraffe.
I hate the direction this is going right now.
Well, then get out of it. Change the, keep talking. You should keep doing the episode so I don't keep doing tongue bits, dude. I keep over here being like giraffe tongue down your throat, you know?
Ken was trying to.
And you're like not telling the story. You just let me keep going, dude. You got to push through.
Ken's trying to get through the zoo.
I don't even remember how we got here.
Ken got out. Got out.
The zoo's open.
The zoo's open. Everybody's seeing all the animals. Ken's walking around. He's looking at the giraffes. He's looking at the elephants. And he's just strolling around like he's a park guest. And people are stopping and they're taking pictures with him on their little disposable cameras. Like, yeah, they're just taking photos with Ken. Like,
and he's like...
That's the thing. He's just totally peaceful. And finally, some zookeepers notice. And they're like, wait, is that Ken Allen?
Or Otis.
And so they go and they approach him, and they expected him to put up a fight or it to be an issue. They were really nervous about this.
Ken Allen. And he goes...
So they do. They clear this little area in the zoo where he was at, and they expected they were going to have to like tranquilize him or something. And they approached him, and he literally did that. They saw them, and he just let them lead him back to his enclosure, and they took him in his enclosure. They put him back, and that was
like, get back in there. He's like,
he shimmies down
scales
the wall.
down the wall, and they're like, all right.
So a couple days later, he does it again. He climbs out. He climbs out of the enclosure. And here's the thing: they weren't sure how he did it this first time.
They didn't spank him or anything, so he was like, I guess I could do it again.
Yeah, they were gentle.
They were like,
him.
Hey,
no.
Gentle parents don't use that word. We're gonna do something else right now. No, sorry. We're gonna do something else right now. I understand how you feel. I hear you. Please put the knife away. That's gentle parenting.
That's gentle parenting. Yeah. So he escapes again, and this time same thing, walking around the zoo, getting pictures taken with people. And I should clarify, the zoo was terrified when this first happened, the first escape.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we're done for.
This
is going to be a media firestorm.
He's going to rip a kid apart."
Well, they were worried about the press. They weren't worried about the kids in the zoo. They were worried that the press was going to find out.
Orangutans attack? Is that a thing?
I mean, any wild animal can attack, but Ken was a pretty peaceful animal. They knew that. But any animal, that's a risk, right? But they were more worried about the negative press that one of our giant apes got out. One of our 4'5", 160-pound apes got out.
Yeah.
And so they were afraid for it to hit the press. Well, the next day it hits the press, and it was super positive.
Attendance boomed.
Yeah, it was super positive, the reception. People were excited about it because the way that this was portrayed in the press was like it was like a bit, like it was like a joke. And so they started calling him Hairy Houdini, which is Hairy Houdini, because they heard the story about him escaping when he was a child and getting out. And
what year is this?
He was born. This is like mid 80s when this is happening. Yeah,
this seems like a pretty 80s thing to happen.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, it was
like Travis the chimpanzee hasn't happened yet.
85 when this happened. Yeah, summer of 85, which is honestly a very summer of 85 event.
Right.
I wasn't alive in summer of 85, but honestly, this fits.
Yeah, orangutan summer.
And so San Diego gets pumped about Ken, and attendance spikes the rest of summer because people are hoping to see Ken Allen escape.
They go to the thing, they go, come here.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm not a freaking cat.
What do you think I am?
Yeah, Kid Allen's like, hey, I'll hang out with you. I'm not a cat.
But I'm not a cat. None of this.
Yeah, you got a little toy. Stop
it with that.
Stop it.
Stop it with that. You're distracting me. You can't forget, I've seen the world.
It's
I've
the
been
80s.
out.
Everyone smoked.
Everyone smokes, especially.
And it was so cool.
It was so sick.
Still is, to be honest.
It's still so sick.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Wanted to let you know real quick, we have an email list, and it's not like hey, we're going to send you our merch and new episodes all the time. We actually give you updates on these stories as we find out about them. So a lot of our episodes we've done a couple years ago now have updates, or the person the topic was about passed away or was caught by the police, or whatever updates we can find on episodes that we've done. We want to let you know about it so that our episodes just aren't, out there out of date. It's a really fun way to keep learning new information. And then every once in a while, we let you know about new events coming up or new episodes. And it's just a way to help us keep spreading this show. Join that email list. You can text TILLN to 66866, or there's a link in the description of this episode, or you can just go to TILLN.com. It's very easy to join this email list. It's everywhere. It's actually really hard to not join it. So...
So June 13th, 1985 was his first escape. It hits the news. It becomes a big deal in San Diego. He gets dubbed the Hairy Houdini, and it like hits the streets.
Yeah.
And so people started selling t-shirts that said Free Ken Allen. They started making bumper stickers that said Free Ken Allen. Right. There was a fan club that was started, which super sick, called the Orang Gang.
Oh, heck yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And so they were big fans of this guy.
Yeah.
And
this guy.
And so people started coming to the zoo with hopes that Ken was going to get out while they were there. But here's the thing. Ken realized that he was being watched. And so Ken had pretty regular, erratic behavior. I shouldn't say erratic behavior, but behaviors that the zookeepers didn't want him to have within the cage. Primarily with him fighting Otis, but he wouldn't fight Otis when the zookeepers were around.
Yeah,
he'd
wait till they were gone, and then he would just smack Otis on the back of the head.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he started to recognize who the zookeepers were because of their uniforms.
Yeah,
and so zookeepers actually started dressing in street clothes, so that way he wouldn't recognize them. So that way they could catch him misbehaving in his enclosure.
Hey, please. Redirect your energy.
Yeah. And he would say, are you a cop? If you're a cop, you have to tell me.
Hey, what the heck is this? You can't be undercover.
Yeah, if you're a cop, you got to tell me. Your license plate has to have cop on the license plate. I'm a sovereign citizen.
You should have heard what Otis said.
That wasn't part of the bit, but it fits so well. I hate that. Oh, that's great. So for the better part of a couple months, people are showing up hoping to see Ken escape.
Sure.
Ken doesn't do it for anyone. Ken's here. Ken's on his own. He's his own man. Until July 29th.
And then the zookeeper's like, shoot, dude, people are coming less and less. We got to get them to escape.
So July 29th rolls around.
Okay.
And he does it again. He climbs the wall, gets out. Same thing. Strolling the park. Seeing the animals, taking pictures with guests. Everyone's excited. And then he goes back to his enclosure and he sees Otis in there. And he realizes out here in the world, there's something that they don't give me in the enclosure. And he said, rocks. So he starts literally stoning Otis, throwing rocks at him from outside the enclosure. And that's when the zookeepers were like, okay, this is a problem.
The zookeeper was like, hey, I am a zookeeper.
And he's like, what? He's like, I told you have to tell me. You can't. I need your name and badge number. And
You got me doing that.
And that's exactly what happened. The zookeepers show up. He immediately turns himself in, and they walk him back into the
Like,
thing.
sorry, I was stoned to notice.
You should have heard what he said, though.
Hate that guy.
Yeah, but have you talked to Otis? He kind of
Dude,
sucks.
it's not even that the girls you put me with are hot. It's not even that. It's just that they're the only ones.
It's just that Otis
And
sucks
it's like,
a lot.
I didn't think I was going to like him at first, but they've grown on me, And now, they're my angels. And Otis is just there.
Yeah.
I don't like him. And I don't like this.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of any of this.
I could honestly look at me in the eyes right now. I could leave anytime.
Yeah.
I choose this life.
Yeah. And so this event was one where they were like, okay, we need to figure this out.
Okay.
We need to figure out how to stop him because he's too good at this. He's escaping too much.
Yeah.
And so what they did is they separated him and Otis. Otis was going to go to a new enclosure. Otis is a problem for him. And so
A trigger.
Yeah, there you go. And then they said, okay, we're all going to put them into a different enclosure for a moment, though, and we're going to renovate this enclosure. So they put him in solitary confinement, actually, and they gave him a black and white TV to watch black and white movies for like a week while they had an operation underway with his enclosure.
TV?
Yeah, they did give him a black and white TV.
That's
they let him
crazy.
watch movies for a week. Because they didn't want to torture him.
Could you give like the primates at a zoo like a smartphone and they would just get addicted to social media?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Huh.
That's an interesting thing. Should we try it?
No, I think it's torture. Let's just try it on teenagers instead.
Good idea. So they put him in solitary. They take all the other gorillas out, and then they go to renovate this. And what they did is they hired a group of professional rock climbers to find and identify all the handholds
weaknesses.
on that wall. And
From rentarockclimber.com.
And they identified all the handholds and they patched them with concrete. And so they made the wall just essentially this big smooth wall. And then
that would have been the easiest thing to do.
And then they installed a moat. And so he'd have to swim across the moat.
Most enclosures have moats.
And then
Harambe had a moat.
And then to take it one step further, they put in an electric fence at the top of the wall. And so they're like, he doesn't have a chance now. He's got to swim, he's got to climb, and he's got to get shocked to make it through while he'll be wet at that point.
Or I could just dress like one of you. Because you guys are dumber than I am.
Yeah, because you're all stupid.
Yeah.
And so they let him back into the enclosure. They bring in two of the girls that he had before.
He's like, I liked the other one.
And
this isn't as fun without Otis here, to be honest. I only liked them because I could get them to like me more than Otis. But now that it's just us,
there's no competition.
There's just the spark is gone.
I realize now that I actually kind of liked Otis. And
I just liked beating Otis.
So he escaped the enclosure, went to Otis's enclosure, and he said, "Hey, Otis, please don't forget me."
Yeah.
No, one of the construction workers, by mistake, left a bar, just some sort of bar, and it like got covered up with some dirt or something like that.
Sure.
And he found it, and so Ken took that bar and he hid it under a rock, and he waited for a time when none of the zookeepers were around. And he took one of the female orangutans and he taught her how to use it. And so he taught her, hey, if you go to the window over here and you get underneath it, you can probably break the window. And so I don't know how this session went. He probably wasn't like, hey.
He's like, hey, if you do this, you can probably break it open.
We're on record. The zookeepers are on record saying, yeah, he taught the females how to break this window with this bar. And so a couple days go by. She goes and she busts that window with that thing, and he gets out again and he goes explores the zoo. And same thing, super peaceful.
The girls stayed in the thing?
The girls got out too. One of them. So here's what happened. All three of them got out. He goes and he explores. Same thing, super peaceful. People are taking pictures with him. They're excited to see him.
Yeah.
They get him. The
girls are mauling people. They're, just throwing kids against the wall. Ken's pretty cool, though.
Ken's pretty cool. Ken's a cool one. Yeah, so they get them all back. So Ken, peaceful, just turns himself in. One of the ladies, peaceful, turns herself in. The other one, she runs. And so they had to actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Tranquilize. Thank you. They had to tranquilize her and then drag her back. And then they sealed it. They took a metal detector and looked for other items that were left behind. Identified that there was nothing there. Called it good. Said, okay, we've got him. He's not getting out. He's not escaping ever again.
But he had hit it.
There was one more event where someone who was cleaning left a squeegee inside. And it was like a big, long, extended wooden squeegee. And one of the ladies said, hey, I bet we can get out with this. And so they climbed the wall. They managed to climb the wall. And I should say, Ken has successfully climbed the wall many times, but he's realized that fence is electric. And so he climbed once, felt it, and he was like, oh, yeah, forget that, and climbed back down. But he still climbs all the time. He just doesn't climb that fence. The ladies, when they found this squeegee stick, it's like a 5-foot extended squeegee stick.
They're like, I bet we could push that fence up.
They climbed, and they got to the top, and they hooked it over the top, and they climbed up the pole of the stick and then hopped over the fence and got out that way. And so the two of them got out without Ken, and Ken was so mad. Ken was like, you left me behind?
I could live one day out there. Bum, bum, ba, ba. We used to write symphonies.
So same thing. They catch them. One of them trying to run. This is the same duo. So one of them tried to run. They have to zip.
Tranquilizer.
Yeah, and they drag them back. And then it stops for like 2 years. There's no event. Nothing happens. People still love Ken. They still have the shirts. He's still kind of like a local icon. But there's nothing major has happened. Until one day, there was a perfect storm. And Ken's hanging out in his enclosure. And there is an issue with the pump in the moat. And so they had to drain the moat out. And when they drained the moat out, Ken realized it was his time. So Ken climbs the fence.
No moat, no more.
And I don't know how he figured this out, but Ken climbs the fence and he climbs over to the edge where the wires connect to the fence to electrify the fence. And he takes a twig and he breaks that wire connection. So now it's not electrified anymore. And he climbs up the fence and out and over the fence. And now he's free again. And he roams around, explores the whole thing. Same thing as always, taking pictures with people, super peaceful, having a good time. But then he sees them. He sees the shorts. He sees the vests and their little hats, the zookeepers, Ken and Alan, his namesake. And he sees them, and things are a little different this time. It's been 2 years since he's got out. And he says, I ain't going back. And so he sees them, and he turns, and he runs. And so he just starts sprinting across. And so now he is running through the San Diego Zoo, this orangutan, full speed. The zookeepers are chasing after him full speed.
Right.
And the crowds are on Ken Allen's side.
They're throwing stuff at the zookeepers and they're tripping them. They're like,
they're like, Ken.
Ken Allen. Ken Allen.
Exactly. And so it's like a madhouse in there. There's a huge mob like coming to see this. It's almost like a parade, and everyone's cheering for him. He's running. They're chasing him. He's like dodging them, climbing up trees, jumping over them, and stuff like that, like escaping these zookeepers.
Yeah.
And then it all comes to this kind of culminating moment when the zookeepers corner him near the lion pit, and they're nervous that he's going to jump the fence. And then obviously that doesn't end well for Ken. And so that's when they decided, okay, we need to take our chance real quick. And they did tranquilize him.
Yes.
And they got him back. And so after that, they learned, okay, we can never have multiple things malfunction at once and have him in there, or really have anything malfunctioning and have him in there, because he'll find the vulnerability.
Yeah.
So then from that moment on, whenever there was repairs or anything happening,
Solitude.
He's got to go solitary confinement. He's got to go watch Gone with the Wind for a couple hours, and then he can come back when everything's patched up.
Yeah, that's what he's watching?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sure.
Something old.
Something old.
Something I don't remember. And so that was his last escape. That was his last time he got out. So he had, 4 escapes where he escaped the actual enclosures, but also when he was a child, he was constantly escaping, just unscrewing these bolts. And he became a folk hero. For years, he was remembered, and they would run like commercials about him for the San Diego Zoo. And this says San Diego Zoo jail, and it's got his little number on it. But he was a hero in the zoo until 2001. Unfortunately, he passed away a little early because he had lymphoma, and so they put him down. But they have a plaque dedicated to his honor to this day in the zoo. 2000. December 1st, 2000. But he's remembered as Hairy Houdini with an I, and he is probably the most intelligent orangutan that they've ever had in that zoo. And
wow.
Yeah, he's a hero.
That's crazy.
The Orang Gang.
That's pretty cool. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope I don't forget you. I hope that years from now, I remember that you were here. Fiddle Off. Hey, thanks for being here for this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. I promise I will never forget you. If you liked this show and you want more of it, we actually mentioned it in this episode. There is an episode about Travis the chimpanzee, who was a movie chimpanzee. You know that movie, like in the 90s, in the movie sets, we're all like, what if a monkey was this character? What if the mailman was a monkey? So they had to hire a chimpanzee actor. There was a very famous one named Travis who ended up, you probably know this story too, ripping a lady's face off. You probably know that story too. She went on Oprah. It was a big deal. You can watch that episode. It's not as funny as what we're laughing about it right
we're
now.
Acting like it's way more fun.
Right now, you're like, man, I want next week's episode right now. I can't wait. You can join us on our memberships. You can go to TILLN.com/support. All that money does is help us make more episodes and grow this show. And by supporting us monthly, you get access to our Discord, where you can join a community of people who are listening to the show and get all the jokes. And when you try to tell a friend about our show and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? The Discord is only people who get our dumb jokes. So you can join that. You can watch next week's episode early. You get a bunch of bonus content. You're going to love it. We would love to see you over there. If not, thank you so much for checking out this episode. Please share it with somebody. We'll see you next time on Things I Learned Last Night. Things I Learned Last Night is an Evergreen Podcast Network show. To see the other shows that Evergreen's involved with, go to evergreenpodcasts.com.